The United Nations has called on South Sudanese leaders to take more responsibility for the world's fastest growing refugee crisis. The UN's High Commissioner for Refugees, Filippo Grandi, made this appeal after visiting a camp for displaced people in Bentiu, South Sudan. Grandi says world powers have had to step up pressure on South Sudan's warring parties to resume peace talks and end the civil war that has displaced millions of people. Since the civil war began in 2013, nearly 2 million people have fled fighting in the country.
We are here in a location of internally displaced people. There's almost 2 million of them in South Sudan. They are part of the more than 40 million internally displaced people worldwide, who are in turn part of the almost 66 million people forcibly displaced in the world. We need to become able to make peace again. Wherever I am, in Aleppo just a few months ago, here in South Sudan, in Somalia last year, in Colombia last summer, this is the cry of people. You know, we want peace.
Right, to discuss this further, we're now joined by the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, UNHCR country representative Robert Tibagwa in Harare. Robert, looking at Southern Africa now, do we have refugees, and which countries specifically are they coming from?
Looking at Southern Africa, yes, we have approximately 1.7 million people of concern. The majority of them come from the Democratic Republic of Congo, and then recently Mozambique, Burundi, and from the Horn of Africa, Somalia, Ethiopia, and so on and so on.
Now, looking at
In
the
Zimbabwe, we have approximately 7.
Right, just asking to interject here, looking at the wider picture, generally, are there enough resources to cater for refugees around the world?
There are never enough resources to cater for refugees around the world. As you know, there are some countries that have said that they are going to reduce humanitarian aid, and that is affecting UNHCR in a big way. In fact, here in Zimbabwe, we are so resource-starved that we are going to issue an appeal tomorrow. The government of Zimbabwe and the United Nations Zimbabwe are going to issue an appeal tomorrow for approximately $11 million to cater for a new influx of approximately 7,500 people who have come from Mozambique.
And finally, we've heard stories of some Somali refugees who, for example, were repatriated back to their country but are now back in refugee camps. What is the pull of this? Is life actually better in the camps for them as compared to at home?
Life for a refugee is never better in the camp. Life in the home country is the best. However, when people return and then there are new threats to their human rights and security, they are forced to flee back to the camp again. It's a question of the conditions prevailing in their home country, and if those conditions are not conducive to remaining there, if they are not being protected by their own government, they are forced to flee to the neighboring country once again. And that this has been a problem in Somalia, in Sudan, almost everywhere. If we repatriate people and they go home but they cannot be afforded protection by their own government, they flee again. It's not necessarily true that the life in the camp is better. If somebody is holding a knife to your head, you have no choice but to flee.
All right, Robert Tibagwa, thank you very much for that. That was the UNHCR country representative joining us live from Harare.